More Heart Than Talent Radio.
Jeffery Combs, Facebook Live, More Heart Than Talent. Welcome to Facebook Live, June 16th, 2020. This would be episode in the thousands. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I started this originally in September 1998, long before I had the brand More Heart Than Talent. Back then it was an Empower You Now live at 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 2 p.m. Pacific. This was the version of an old team call that I resurrected. So I used to do a team call every day at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2 p.m. Pacific. And when I started my seminar company in August of 1998, this was the mindset call that I started at 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Then I moved that to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in 1999. From 1999 to 2018, this was a 10:30 Eastern live call. And that was a live call that I also recorded and then moved it to a podcast. And many of those original recordings are available at goldenmastermind.com going back to 2010. I believe that's as far as some of them go. In that era, before 2010, I interviewed Jim Rohn, Mark Victor Hansen. I had Dr. Joe Dispenza a few times, 2 times on that call, and John Assaraf several times, Susan Sly, many exceptional guests and hosts. Now today, this is about a 25-minute Facebook Live every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Welcome to Facebook Live this afternoon. So we have some exceptional coaching clients and friends on the line today. Good afternoon, everyone. If there's a specific topic you would like me to cover for you that you feel would great value to our group sometime in the very near summer, that would be June or July, feel free to send me a Facebook message. And this would be for example, for your team or for your culture, or specifically for you if you'd like to see me cover a topic that would give you insight, inner wisdom, inner knowing about cause and effect, or any specific topic that you would like me to cover. As we are in almost the 6-month point of this year, it's been a very interesting year for all of us. I mean, we started out with great promise this year, and then we've had 2 different situations that have been, let's see, how do we even say this, that have arrived, that we are now navigating. So we have a lot happening in our world, and it seems more and more every single day we are faced with more challenges. Now that's reality. That's not negative and that's not positive. That is consciousness. Now that is the topic for my call today, is living in your power. It's very easy to feel disempowered. I know even myself, as much recovery as I have, 32 years, I'll have 33 years in December, as many books as I've read. I started reading inspirational books, metaphysical books, back in the late 70s when I was in college. Teachings of Don Juan, Journey to Axleton, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, You Can Heal Your Life, Coming Home, Heal Your Inner Child. These are some of the books I read in the 80s and 70s. Your Erroneous Zone. I mean, just to name a few. And then How to Master the Art of Selling was the first real sales book. Think and Grow Rich, Win Friends and Influence People. Then in the 90s, I started to read Brian Weiss, Many Lives, Many Masters. I started to read a lot of content of spirituality, metaphysical recovery, mind-body connections, etc. And then I came across David Hawkins in 2005, and his content became very game-changing for me. And his first book that I read was a book called Power versus Force. Now, if you have not read that book, or you are reading that book, I highly suggest you skim or go back on chapter 8, The Source of Power. That content never gets old for me, because that content is very applicable on 7 days a week for me on being and staying in power and understanding the separation difference between force and power. Many people that own a business, their first business ventures or part-time business ventures, they're not comfortable with, they're not affiliated with. It's all new to them, and there's a lot of force that happens. And in our world today, there's a lot of force. We feel forced to wear a mask. And I just saw today that if you're going to fly in any airline, you're going to be wearing a mask, although I believe it said Southwest is optional, And there's one other airline that starts with an A that you're not required to wear a mask. So you are forced to do that. We have been forced to stay inside. We have been forced not to go to church. A lot of forces happen to us beginning in March. And so there's a lot of feelings that we have about that. There's oppressed, suppressed, and repressed feelings that we've experienced in the last 4 months. If you are someone who's awake, woke, if you are in recovery, sobriety, it's an advantage to you because you have some better understanding. If you've been reading personal development, self-improvement, recovery, metaphysical type content and information, or if you are someone who watches the news behind the veil and you're connected to source and you're downloading a lot of what you feel is going on, these are advantages to you. But even you are going to experience some anxiety about the future because it's just never been like this. So it's not natural, it's conditional. We are being conditioned to operate in a way so that you can comply with certain people's wishes. And so as you move into power and let go of your resistance and let go of feeling forced or the force that's going on around you, you can still live a very good life. You can still attract a soulmate, teammate, vendor, contractor, producer, influencer, affluencer to your life, because you're going to attract your reality, people and situations to fulfill your feelings. I recently had a conversation with a woman who laughed throughout the conversation, and she consistently edified that she's always overwhelmed. She must have said this 6 or 7 times. I'm always overwhelmed. I'm always overwhelmed. This is a very common conversation I have with men and women. And they have 3 children, 4 children, 5 children, 2 children, a pet, and there's a lot of responsibilities. I'm always overwhelmed. So this kind of communication, this narrative that a large percent of the population speaks, is in an overwhelmed state. There's a lot of force that happens. They wait till the last minute. They don't have a system, don't have a method, don't have a routine, and then they're trying to catch up. Well, there's no power in that. Power has no shape and form. It is not physical. The power that I'm conveying to you today is emotional etheric energy. That is light energy. That is the energy of magnetism. That is the energy of affluence. That's the energy of influence. That's the energy of attraction. Attract to my reality, people and situations, to fulfill cause, meaning, and purpose. But if you're not in clarity, so this is how most of society is, they have no clarity. They don't know. And they'll say, I don't know why they do this. I don't know, I don't remember, I don't recall, and I don't know why I'm doing this. I interviewed a gentleman today and asked him several questions about his clarity in his 50s, and he had no direction. And I pointed out to him that he is directionless because of an event that happened to him 10 years ago. So this is what happens is event-shaped feelings. We hold on to a set of feelings that are typically unresolved, and we don't know how. We don't know how to let go of them. I don't know. How do I? This becomes the way. So there's a lot of force. There's a lot of resistance. There's procrastination. There's avoidance. And there's no power in this. As you begin to let go, separate your feelings from the events that shape them. That's what letting go means. Many of you have heard me say this 20, 30, 40, 50, 100, hundreds, and some of you thousands, because I say it every single day. Separate my feelings from the events that shape them. Personal, those are my feelings. I'm no longer the mind-body connection to the events that shape my feelings. I no longer have dis-ease. I'm no longer in inflammation. So those are the situations that are byproducts of forced avoidance, procrastination, feeling behind, feeling overwhelmed. Those are the feelings that will create the emotions that then creates anxiety, fear, and doubt. As you begin to let go, as you begin to improve, as you create a new repetition and experience, as you start to create a relaxed method, and most importantly this, you stop rebelling against yourself. You stop rebelling against creating your own simple routine and system. You actually begin to make your bed, wash your clothes at set times. You begin to eat at set times. You start to detox and cleanse. You start to exercise in a routine. You stop winging it. You start to create a system and a routine for your life that you can duplicate, you can follow over and over. And the more simple, the more simplicity you create, and step out of complication, the more power you will be in. Complication is a lot of force. Simplicity is power. And the more simplicity you create, a very simple system. If you're in a business and you have products, services, benefits, and features, it's going to be imperative that you have a very simple system that your prospects, your customers, your clients can view your products, services, benefits, and features. Like on our website, I had a website recently that I had a webmaster build, and it was not up to par. I had to redo it because it wasn't simple to navigate. I recently did a live conference with someone and had multiple challenges with the customer service issues in the website. I mean, this seems to be a challenge, and Dylan and I really looked at the whole situation. We started to overhaul it, so it's very simple. And if you're not in simplicity, you're in complication. Complication creates force. Simplicity creates power, because simplicity is flow, and that's what you want to be able to create, is ITF, in the flow, prosperity, prospero, where it flows, where organic leads come to you. Last week, 2 former clients showed up in my life in the very same week, and both referred me clients. I mean, there is no accident. I started to have a vision of that over a year ago, and I started to feel that happening. I could sense that. That was power. That wasn't will. When your will gets in the way, that's ego, and you're trying to force a situation. When you're prospecting and you're desperate, your prospects feel that force. When you're relaxed, when you're able to let go, your prospects don't feel that attachment. When you're detached from the situation, then no one's ghosting you. I hear this frequently. People go, my prospect ghosted me. Prospects don't ghost you. Prospects don't buy for you for 2 reasons. Number 1, they're not interested. And number 2, you weren't effective. Those are the 2 reasons. And I can give you, there's going to be sideline reasons, but broken down, those are the 2 main reasons. Number 1, the prospect that you spoke to wasn't interested and couldn't commit. And then number 2, you weren't effective in your communication style. And that's how a lot of people are. They force it. What do I say? What do I say? And one of my clients said to me just recently, goes, I told my prospect, you need this business. I said, that was a demand. That's not how you prospect. Prospecting is, have you ever considered owning this business? Based on what you reviewed, do you feel comfortable in purchasing today? I mean, there's a whole different level of power in the question versus the demand statement. You need this. So that's not effective. That's not an effective way to communicate. You want to ask people questions about the outcome you seek to see if they qualify for what you're selling, branding, marketing. And you're going to find that a lot of people aren't interested, don't qualify, aren't ready, can't commit. And as you begin to easily and effortlessly let people go from no attachment, that's power. When you're in force, you feel uptight, you're rigid, you feel desperate, poverty consciousness, lack, and other situations that create anxiety around money. When you have anxiety around money, that's force. When you need money, when you're desperate for money, when you're behind the 8 ball, when you haven't paid your taxes, when you have IRS bills, when you have a lot of credit card bills with the interest mounting, and you don't have a routine or a system to be able to free yourself of the debt, and you're focusing on debt-free and paying my bills, when you communicate like this, you're in a very, very tense state. Dog whisperers and horse whisperers don't force their animals. They're very skilled at communicating with the animal, to where you can see how certain dog trainers and horse trainers just have that flow about them. And the bronco that bucks the first person off, the horse whisperer comes up and has a whole different energy that he brings to that horse. He can get up, put his hand on the saddle, throw the right leg over, sit in the stirrups, and just navigate that horse with the inner thighs. The same with the dog. When you've seen a dog that's been beaten and you see that dog, you pick that dog up in the pound, and you have compassion and empathy for that animal, oftentimes that love that you give that to that animal will change the energy. That's all power, not force. And you don't train an animal by beating them. You have to train an animal with some level of relaxed discipline and be able to convey the message of how you want to navigate that friendship that you're creating. And the same happens with people. There are people who want to make you wrong. And if you feel violated by that, if you have to explain, validate, and justify yourself, one of the one of the most empowering ways that you can really let go is let go of being sensitive and defensive. I find that that's one of the biggest deterrents to success, is how sensitive and defensive a large percent of society is. First of all, you can't possibly be a good employee, and you can't possibly be a good leader, mentor, or entrepreneur when you're sensitive and defensive. That means your feelings are going to get hurt on command. That's all force. In power, someone can criticize you, and in your humility, you can be so humble that you can't be humiliated by it. When you're not rejectable, no one can reject you. When you're comfortable with yourself, you don't say that someone rejected you or abandoned you or ghosted you. You understand that they didn't buy because they weren't interested. They didn't buy because they weren't committed. And you're able to understand that they didn't buy because the timing wasn't right. They didn't buy because they didn't buy, and you don't spend a lot of time in your head trying to figure it out. You're able to easily and effortlessly let go and move in to the next state of flow. And that state of flow is called power. Power is not physical. It's not linear. Power is emotional. Power requires no outside influence because power is its own influence. Power does not require love because power is love. Power is self-love. Outside love can enhance love, but power is not dependent on it. Power has no dependency because power is independent. Power is detached. It has no attachment. Power is flexible. It can move like this. Force is very rigid. Force requires a win-lose dichotomy. It's black and white. It's right and wrong. And in a right-wrong situation, someone's always going to lose, and it's you if you're sensitive and defensive, because you're going to get picked on, traumatized, victimized, and you'll attract your reality. People in situations just show up and reject you, or you'll reject yourself to fulfill your feelings. And that's why it's so important to let go of being sensitive and defensive. And it's not your fault, because you were traumatized, picked on, violated, any multitude of situations that creates those set of feelings, but it is your responsibility to understand the cause that creates the effect, why you do what you do, and then move into the energy of letting go. So letting go is a skill set. Once mastered, it becomes a skill that you can take anywhere with you. Letting go is power, because when you can let go easily and effortlessly, you're not offendable. And even though someone's offending you, you don't take it on. Even though someone is very confrontational with you, you're able to neutralize it easily and effortlessly by the energy that you transmute. And when you're not in anxiety, fear, and doubt, you're not projecting that, then you're in power. When you project how scared you are, how worried you are, when you're worried about the conversation coming up, when you tell yourself, oh, those people are richer than me, those people are more successful than me, they probably won't look at this, then you interview into the conversation, you go, no, I'm not interested. It's because you telegraphed it right up front, and you attracted to your reality the very situation that you sought to avoid. And that's why separating your feelings from the events that shape them is what letting go is. Now, when you have challenges letting go, your body will manifest disease and addictions, because you'll live in that addict's cardio cocktail. An addict always wants a little more. One's too many, and 1,000 isn't enough. You'll require something to take that edge off. That's what force is. Power requires nothing, because power doesn't have an edge. Power has no shape and form. Force is boxed. It's linear. It's like this. It has a shape. It has a form. And it typically has to have conflict to thrive. Power requires no outside influence. Power is a B state. In power, you can be in power in a rocking chair, being yourself. You don't feel guilty about not doing something. Force has to constantly move, and force has to have something to do, because it's not comfortable in a B state. And power is completely a state of being. And that's why power is so flexible. Power can adapt and adjust. Force is very rigid, and it requires, as I said, conflict. And as you learn to empower yourself, now you can empower others. One of my first companies back in the day was Empower You Now. My first book company was Empower You Now Publishing Company. And that name was a very, very empowering name. So it's a great name, and you can do that yourself. You can come up with empowering statements, and you can empower others. And what that means is, as you're empowering yourself, that energy you're giving off is already empowering others, because power attracts power. Power does not attract force because it doesn't have any requirement for it. That's why power so easily neutralizes force, and it just drops beside it. It doesn't attract it. Force attracts a counter force, so it has to be in opposition. Power is no opposition, so in power you'll attract your reality in a higher law of average. So here's how this would look in a selling organization. So you can be a great salesperson, and you can close 400 sales in 2 years, and yet no one produces. And that this is a commonality. Or in power, you can be the same great salesperson, be really comfortable with yourself and have self-esteem. So you can have self-confidence, and confidence requires recognition. Power does not depend on any recognition. Power often gets recognized because it doesn't require recognition. And because it doesn't require it, it gets recognized because tasks get done in power. Tasks often are forced when you are in an overwhelmed state. So the difference between enrolling 200 people in 2 years and 200 people in force and power, in power, 4 or 5 of those people will produce, where in force, none of them produce, because it's all very forced. You're going to attract people and situations to reality to fulfill your feelings of low self-esteem, anxiety, fear, and doubt. Then you'll recreate the same situations over and over to fulfill the same set of feelings. And as you begin to let go, and you move into the psychology of power, it means you understand it. It means you start to live in the mindset of it. And it means you're able to just let go very easily. And you move out of judgment, envy, jealousy. You don't have stories about people. And you can easily and effortlessly neutralize people. Now, I was reading Healing and Recovery this morning on my spin bike at 4:27. I remember this on the page I was in. In the book Healing and Recovery, I was in the chapter on stress. It's one of the early chapters. It's chapter 3 in the book Healing and Recovery. It's a great chapter because in stress, he uses the word stress, but he really means anxiety, fear, and doubt. This is Hawkins. And in that chapter, he brought up once you move into neutrality, that takes you above courage. So the scale of consciousness, there's anxiety, fear, and doubt. So that maxes out at about 180 cycles a second. Courage is 200 cycles a second. The next feelings above courage is neutrality. Neutrality is right below 300, so it means you're right at consciousness. Neutrality is detachment. It means you're detached from people and you're detached from the outcome. And you don't confuse detachment. People who live in anxiety, fear, and doubt easily confuse detachment. They confuse it with thinking they don't care, that you don't care, and so they avoid it because they would feel guilty not caring. They confuse this. But someone who's in power understands detachment means you're detached from the outcome, not worried about an outcome, and can easily and effortlessly let go. People who analyze, think, and process want detachment explained, and they want to understand the details of detachment. When someone in power just looks up and goes, I'm neutral, I'm getting out of here. So because they can detach, when the other person wants to stay in their analytical, egoic mind, they want to know, how do I detach? How do I detach? Well, don't you think? I don't understand. This is how a person who doesn't understand detachment, because they want to be right. When you let go of your will to be right and move into neutrality and detachment, now you're starting to scale consciousness. Now you're right below consciousness, where you begin to understand, you're aware, and you can easily and effortlessly let people go. Your inner ear hears situations differently, so that the speed of your hearing improves. So you hear what's meant along with what's said. So when you couple those two together, meaning and what's said, now you're in intuition. Now you're in a state called no. And in that no state, you don't doubt yourself. You can just let the situation go like this. And you don't spend the rest of it, oh, wow, I made a mistake. I lost out on that. Oh, my God, that's the one that got away. I should have said this. I could have said. So that's exhausting. That's what many people do. They hold on to this energy. And they go, I don't understand. This isn't working. This isn't happening. This always happens to me. I don't understand this. And that's how the analytical, egoic mind continues to hold on, resisting change. And that's what many people do, is they volunteer to change, but they resist it, so that they stay in their own contradiction. And then they stay in that mixed message. And then they stay in their analytical, egoic mind. This isn't happening to me. I don't understand this. I've gone to this. I did that. I coached with this. I did this. I paid for this. I did this. But that's all That's all. That's all the analytical egoic mind, and all that's true. That person did pay for it, but they're not applying it because it's too difficult for them. And so the ego wants to hold on to what's familiar so they can justify being right in that force. Would someone just tell me what to do? If someone just tell me what to do, I'd do it. Well, many people have given this person suggestions, but they're not hearing it. All they're hearing is, I'm sensitive, I'm defensive, you're just another person, you're wrong, I wasted this, and blah, blah. See, that's the voice. Now, when you're able to let go of that, I was able to let go of that because I had to be right. Through my 20s, I was very angry. I was a drug addict, alcoholic, had lots of emotional issues, continued to hit rock bottom, found new ways to hit rock bottom, and went beyond rock bottom to a new level of rock bottom. And my rock bottom was delirium tremens. For years, I thought it was delirium tremors, but it's tremens. So delirium tremens is when an alcoholic reaches a state that they convulse. They start to have seizures. And that was my rock bottom. I started to have seizures and was close to dying. Now, that is a very, very forced way to recover. I mean, it could have been a lot easier for me, but my ego had to hit rock bottom several times before I found the rock bottom. It's a very exaggerated way, a lot of drama and way too much energy. And so you don't require that. If you're in rock middle today, you're at a place where you can transform. Now, what does that require? It requires understanding the inner mechanism of letting go, and you cannot possibly receive it. So letting go it's not only a learned behavior, it's an applied behavior, but it's not something you can analyze. Letting go is not analytical, letting go is emotional. So you can hear this over and over, separate your feelings from the events that shape them. But if you live in the analytical egoic mind of that, separate my feelings from the events that shape them. If you keep playing that over in your left brain, and then you'll just keep saying, I don't understand that. How do I do that? Well, that's why people analyze it. Separate my feelings from the events that shape them. When you're able to do that, you're not in conflict with people. You're not making someone wrong. You're able to easily and effortlessly neutralize the situation, let go, and move on. And then you are no longer the mind-body connection to the events that shape the feelings. So there's separate my feelings from the events that shape them, then no longer the mind-body connection to the events. Those are the two components that spiritually and metaphysically and emotionally comprise the skill of letting go. Now, when you put these two pieces together, now you have mechanism, and then you bring application. Now you can move forward in it, separating your feet. That is power. Anyone that is on this Facebook Live today that would like to reach out to me for a free 20-minute coaching session, I offer those for first-time clients or repeat customers. You can just go right up there in my inbox and request a free 20-minute coaching session. I am going to go down, this is my office, I'm going to go down to my desk downstairs where I produce results for the rest of the afternoon. Thank you very much, everyone. You have a great afternoon. Look forward to eventually being out in the populace where I will be speaking sometime near the end of this year or the beginning of next year. Have a great afternoon.
More Heart Than Talent Radio.